Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar on search marketing. And I'd just like to start the webinar by introducing this beautiful piece behind me by Aviva Reed. And I'm trying to highlight the how much value and greatness that artists bring into our lives. And we're going to be talking about optimizing copy and specifically semantic markup. And I'm going to go through some technical code sort of stuff. And the important thing to remember in all of this is that if you do this work while building web pages, it's actually no extra work. Once you learn the techniques of writing clean copy, then it's actually easy. Whereas if you have to go and then grab a website and then retrospectively tidy it all up and optimize for search engines, it's actually a really big job. So it's really important to learn this stuff as you go, so therefore you can just implement it as you go. So semantic markup, what semantic markup is it's computer readable text. So it's really important in context of search engines because Google is a robot. So therefore we want the robot to be able to read the text. Now the good news is it's also a simplified format. So if it's easier for robots to read, then it's also easier for humans to read. And I'm a big fan of making things as simpler and easy as possible. So where we're going to start with is the basic structure of what a website is, the code of a website. Now, all websites are built, jump back to the run sheet, out of HTML. So basically, HTML was the first language. So this is a language that your browser reads. So if you're using Google Chrome or Firefox or something like that, this is the language that your browser is reading. Now, that was the first language. And then in recent times, we've also added another two languages. One is called cascading style sheets. And what that does is it separates the content from the styling. So therefore CSS is the fonts, the colors, the layouts, all that sort of stuff. And that's really important to good semantic markup because it means that the design and the aesthetic code is not within the actual content. And that's really important if you're going to then push that content to different devices because then you may have different styling depending on the device. So you have HTML plus, which is the content, plus the CSS, which is the styling, and then another language called JavaScript, which then does more dynamic stuff, animation. You know, when you pre-filled out forms, the captcha forms, all that's running on JavaScript. So the good news is that HTML is a simple language, and this is just a link to a really introduction. So if we have a look at this example here, and I'll just increase the size. H1. So left bracket, H1, right bracket, my first setting. So everything in between. And then we close it with this forward slash. That is the start of H1, that's the end of H1. So it is actually quite simple language. So that's why I urge people that are scared of code, don't be scared of this one. It's not as scary as you may think. So this is paragraph and end paragraph. And so if we jump down to some other, here's a heading 1, heading 2, heading 3. This is what a link looks like. This is a list here. So this is an unordered list. So we start the list, we end the list, list item, list, close that list item, is that you can right mouse click. This is on any browser. You can go view page source. So the source of the code that runs every web page is open. Here's the code. So if we look here, you can see this is a link and we've got a heading. I'm going to highlight that. Let me make it bigger. Scroll back down. Okay, so we've got a heading here and then we've got a link. Cross-platform. So in the old days, we used to view our websites on a laptop, not even a laptop, on a desktop. And then there was about 2 screen sizes. And it was very simple. So we'd build websites to fit that screen. Now we've got phones, we've got internet watches, We got people who view the internet on their PlayStation. We have internet-enabled fridges. We have like all sorts of weird and wonderful devices. Now, we can't, as designers, design for all these platforms. So what we do is if we format our code correctly using semantic markup, heading ones, heading twos, paragraphs, bulleted lists, then that would then format across any platform that you throw it at. If you look at an internet watch and you formatted your copy correctly, without all the rubbish, then it will display as best as possible on an internet watch, even though you're not testing for it. So this is a key thing, is that it will cross-platform very well. It will also future-proof your code and your pages. So for example, 2021, they released the hologram web page reader like they have in Star Wars when Princess Leia gave that message to Luke Skywalker. Now that's not too far off because we already have voice technology and hologram technology is coming really fast. So let's just say it's coming out next year, but we don't know what the specifications are for the hologram web page reader. So what do? If we use basic semantic markup, then the people who design and develop the holographic web page reader, if they're any decent developers, they will optimize their web page for semantic markup, the standards that exist across the internet. So they'll optimize for a heading one, they'll optimize for a paragraph, they optimize for a bulleted list. So therefore, your web page is going to display perfectly in a technology that's not even invented yet. The other benefits of semantic markup is designing for disability. Screen readers are robots and they read out to the person, and voice. So voice search is really important now. So hey Google, that's a voice search. So if you semantically mark up your pages, it means a robot can read them to a person. So they can go, hey Google, what's the best, can you tell me about the Gippsland Forests campaign, where it's up to? Google will then go to your web page because it's the best web page on the internet. It's done it through your search rankings, and then it just starts reading the page. The campaign is up to this. This isn't the future. This is where it's all at the moment. But why we're talking about semantic markup, this is talking about optimizing for Google. Google is a robot. So talk to it in its language, which is semantic markup. TLDR. No, someone sends me a long email, a long text message. I reply with TLDR. It was too long, I didn't read. So that's really common now. So the brain is changing. Social media and the way we consume media is changing quite fast. So I would argue that long form is dead. So long articles, long detailed information, that's dead. Now this is in context to a quick turnaround and search optimization, that sort of stuff. Sure, if you're doing extensive research as an academic, then long form is always going to be around. However, generally people will come to a short form, even a really short form as a meme, bit more before they're even going into a long form. By the time we get into long form, I'd argue also that web pages aren't a good format for long form anyway, because therefore you're staring at a screen. It's better to then be in an EPUB format, electronic book, because then it can go into your tablet reader, your Amazon book reader, in my case on my phone. Now in an EPUB context, it means I can increase the font size, I can increase the contrast, I can control it, and a lot of them have screens which are better for reading. So I'd also argue that long form shouldn't be on web pages anyway. Obviously there is context, but if you think of it that way. The other way to think about it is that we should be able to read your web page without reading it. Okay, so the way that works is that you have lots of subheadings, headings, subheadings, sub-subheadings, where you've got the key points and then paragraphs. So that means that I can scan your page and get the gist of it without reading it. So that's really important as well, because I might be like, I'm looking for something specific. So is there a current campaign in Gippsland Forest? don't make me read from the front of the top of the page down to the bottom of the page with this big long text. Cut it up, put subheadings so I can scan it and go, I don't care about this bit, I don't care. I don't, oh, here's the bit. Oh, no, here's the bit I want. Bang, paragraph, and I'm going to read that one paragraph. So what about blogs? TLDR, definitely. You can also use a format that newspapers have always used, which is the pyramid way of writing. So you have the who, what, why, when, the important stuff right at the top, short form. Then you do a bit more longer, a bit more detail, and then you go into your long form. So there is still a place for long form, but I would also ask the question, is this relevant to what you're doing? Is it relevant to getting a call to action and to get your people to the next point? Maybe you want them to download an EPUB. Talked about pathways earlier, or maybe you want them to get to come to an event where you can give them more information, etc. So you want to be able to scan to read. So lots of subheadings. The other thing is, can it be better in a bulleted list? So if you can even get away with getting rid of your paragraphs, then get rid of your paragraphs. And you want short paragraphs. So I read an article the other day. I linked to it on Facebook. It was an interesting article. I scanned it and it had big, long paragraphs. And I was like, really? You don't want me to read this, do you? Because it actually hurts your eyes to be able to just go slabs of text. It's easier to read if you've got breaks. Now, we're not having to worry about printing paper. We're not having to worry about the cost. So in the old days, they used to bunch things up to print less paper. The books are cheaper to produce. We don't have to worry about that. Heaps of spacing, heaps of paragraphs. Make it a nice experience for people to read it. So I'm just going to show an example. This is my web page. I've optimized WordPress training. Heading, small paragraph, heading, small paragraph, small paragraph, small paragraph, call to action. There's a pretty picture. You get that? All the way down. Now, the longest bits of copy on my entire website are my testimonials. With my new website, I've even cut them back. There we go. Take control of your blog. You don't need to read about the technology, that paragraph. It makes sense. Build a successful website for a living, plan a new website, beginners welcome. Like, you can scan that section without having to read it really quickly. Now, the reason I'm saying this for humans, but it's also Google is going to also penalize you, will reward you for writing like that, because Google gets it. Google's writing for optimizing for people, and Google understands if people are searching for things, they just want to get to where they're going as quick as they can. So short paragraphs, headings, subheadings, bulleted lists. And that goes back to our previous bit about semantic markup. If you've got in that format marked up correctly, it's the best format for Google.